So welcome, everybody. Let me just go ahead and introduce Jessie Johnson to you. Jessie is the director of the specific projects at Pacific Hearing Services and here in the Bay Area. She has 25 years of experience in audiology. She's dedicated to providing expert and compassionate service, ensuring that everyone she meets has access to the best possible hearing health care. We wish everybody was like that. As a problem solving enthusiast in the field, she stays current with the latest apps and assistive technologies. Outside of work, she enjoys spending time with family and friends and being in nature. So we're very happy to have you, Jessie, and we'll let you take it over and tell us whatever it is you have prepared for us today.
All right, thank you, Sally. And nice to see everybody. I recognize some faces in the crowd here. I was asked to talk about traveling with hearing loss today, some tips and tricks maybe, and then also to give a little update on the
Jessie,
California.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Is anyone else?
Yes, it sounds pretty soft. I was thinking it might have been me, but can you
Speak up.
volume, Jessie?
Let me see if I can adjust.
Yeah, we heard you pretty clearly earlier.
Trying to see if there's a different
Yes, that's
Yeah,
better.
microphone. That's okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds okay to me. How about the rest of you?
sounds good.
Okay.
Maybe I'll just get a little closer to my computer too and see if that helps picking up. So I was going to talk about traveling with hearing loss today, some tips and tricks that you might not have thought of already yourself. And then to give an update on the CTAP program, the telephone program through the state of California. And I think Larry asked me to talk a little bit about the Roger FM system. So I have a couple things to bring up and share. So I'm going to share my slides for you, and I'll just kind of go through those fairly quickly, and then we can just ask questions and talk about what I shared. Can everybody see my screen?
I can.
Okay.
Yes,
Great. I think everybody kind of knows about us already at Pacific Hearing Service. That's where I'm from. We have two offices, one in Menlo Park and one in Los Altos. And Sally already introduced me. So planning ahead, I think that's one of the big ones, talking about traveling, making sure you're having things checked out before you leave, because once you're on the road, gone somewhere, it's harder to get service. So if you have time to make an appointment with your audiologist before you leave to have a checkup done, maybe some earwax removal, or just have the hearing aids cleaned, that's always a good thing to get started, maybe the week or 2 weeks before you travel. And then researching your destination, because there's a lot of places that will offer assistive listening devices or captioning or even guided tours. So if you can get those booked in advance, and the same with making reservations, just in general, making reservations anywhere. You never know what's going to be busy or filled up when you get there, but there's also some options for like ADA kits available from hotels. So I don't know if anybody's ever requested that before, but there can be special accommodations at certain hotels they will have for like alarm clocks or like a doorbell even on the outside of the door, as well as making sure the TV is accessible or the phone that rings in the room as well might have a flashing light instead. So you can ask for those accommodations in advance. And then when it comes to packing, so that we don't, how many, like a lot of us have rechargeable on things now with our hearing aids. And all of those hearing aids and a lot of the chargers that we charge with have a lithium ion battery in them. So it's important when you're packing to make sure that those are going in your carry-on bag and not your checked bag, because they'll sometimes flag it in your checked bag and it'll get removed. So making sure you carry those on, or taking extra batteries if you're not rechargeable. The charging cords are always important to have. And I even have a link. I found this really great website, which I can share in the chat, that is for determining what plug you need when you're traveling. So that way you have the right converter if you need one. I'm a huge proponent of having an extra case to put your hearing aid in, like you know, those little cases that come with your box if you get a new hearing aid. Your audiologist will always have a bunch of extras, so you can ask for as many as you want. And if you have that extra case, if you put your name and your contact information on it, because if a hearing aid is in the case, it will get found and get back to you 100 times faster than if hearing aids just get dropped on the ground and they're gone. So I spent probably 20 years of my life being the person who got the phone call saying, I lost my hearing aid. And what do I do now? And a lot of those stories were because I took my hearing aid out and put them in my pocket. So the case is a big need. If you don't have one, just ask your audiologist for extras. And then always having cleaning supplies or anything like wax guards, all those extra things with you. If you have backup hearing aids, if you're lucky enough to have a backup hearing aid, and especially if you're taking a long trip, making sure that you pack those backups. And then there's remote microphones. A lot of you, I know this group is really active and sharing information. So you might all have some of these remote microphones already. And if you have a cochlear implant, you probably definitely have one, because I think you get all those great accessories for free. But those remote microphones can be a wonderful option for traveling with your companions, or if you're on a tour, because you can have someone wear the microphone and then you're getting that information from them streamed over to your hearing aid or your cochlear implant. There's also some communication cards. So there's some things through the TSA, which I'm going to show. And then there's other things that you can print or have available. So if you're traveling even maybe to another country, that you would have that communication card in another language. So at my old office, we had one for people, like if you got pulled over and the officer could point to the communication card saying, I'm pulling you over for this reason or that reason, or I need you to step out of the car, just so if you couldn't hear them, because especially if you get pulled over like on the freeway and all that traffic noise, it's just another way to communicate with each other. Traveling alarm clocks, pack those if you've got them. I don't know if anybody uses one. Most of them are usually like a bed shaker. So it'll give you a little vibration to wake you up. And there's even some other assistive listening devices that are available that you can like hang on your door in your hotel room. So if somebody was opening up your door, it would like alert you with a really loud sound. And there's even some that even have a flashing component to it. So for safety, or just if you didn't hear the maid and they started coming in on you, those are some nice options for other travel things that you could pack. And then flying, most of you probably already know, but you do not need to remove your hearing aid or your cochlear implant when you're going through security. So you can leave that on. There's no damage that will be caused to it, and it won't alert anything through the security. So you can wear it right through the security, or that you can tell them if you're worried, and you can go through the kind of not the big security system where you have to stand and put your hands up like you're under arrest, but the one that's just like the regular metal detector. So there's options there, but you don't need to take your hearing aids off. TSA actually has a little notification card. I'm going to show it on the next screen that you can carry with you as well if you have any concerns, especially if you're traveling to another country. When it comes to connecting to in-flight videos, this is a big one that's kind of frustrating trying to find solutions for. So my recommendations are, if you have a hearing aid accessory already, like a remote microphone, some of those will have an adapter that you could plug in. So you can plug directly in, just like you'd plug in the headset that they give you at the airline, but you could plug your accessory in that way. Other options, some airlines let you connect on your phone or your tablet to their system to watch their movies. So like Southwest does that. And then you can stream, because most of us are already connected to our phones or tablets, so we could stream the information up to the hearing aids. And the other option is to download something to your own devices prior to flying. There's also some really great, and Jim has some on right now, some really great over-the-ear headphones that sometimes people can even use over their hearing aids. And so there's some options like that. We have, with some new technology coming out, maybe in the next few years, some options to connect better. So we might be able to stream directly to our hearing aids, as we're having the new type of Bluetooth and Auracast coming into availability. So soon, hopefully, we'll be able to connect better to those in-flight movies. Right now, it's so difficult. I don't know how many people travel and try to watch with just those earbuds that they hand out. If you have to take your hearing aids out and put those in, very impossible to hear anything. So usually trying to find a different solution to get that audio. And then always having the option to turn on the captions, and usually on any of those videos is helpful. When you're at the airport, you can also sign up for text alerts for your flights. So if you have your smartphone, you can download the app for the airline. And then your information, they already know you're on that flight, and you'll get text alerts letting you know if there was a gate change or a delay. That can be really helpful, because hearing in the airport and understanding which gate is talking sometimes, and even the people who are talking on the microphones don't enunciate well, or I can't understand them. So having those text alerts are really helpful. And then you can also just go up to the agent that's at the desk and let them know, I'm hard of hearing, and I'm not going to hear your gate announcements. So if you could maybe let me know, like wave at me and let me know if there's something that I need to know. So that way you don't miss it, boarding and things like that. This is the TSA notification card. So you can, from the TSA website, you can download this, print it off, and you just write in your information, and then you can hand it to them when you're walking through. So they give you options for different types of screenings. And this is really helpful in the US, but also can be an option for traveling abroad as well, because it's similar information that they will look at and understand when you're needing some special accommodations. So this is just right from on my previous slide, I had the link here. It's right on their website, the tsa.gov website for disabilities. I'll put it in the chat, and you just print it off. So for road trips, I don't know if anybody's done this before. I have a few patients already who have a car program set up. So there's a few hearing aids that already will know from the acoustics and the environment that they're traveling in a car. Sometimes they're even picking up from like the movement from like their GPS tracking that you're moving at a certain speed, so you're in a vehicle. But you can have your audiologist set up just a program that you can put it in so that you have those adjustments happening so you're hearing better in the car to accommodate for that road noise. The other thing that can be really helpful is wearing those remote microphones if you're traveling with somebody else in the car. So you can have them wear it so you can hear them better, well, over the car noise happening. And then figuring out before your road trip how your GPS instructions are coming through to your hearing aids or through the car. Because sometimes we have challenges with the Bluetooth where the Bluetooth gets routed, either if it's going to go directly to the hearing aids or if it's coming through the car. So getting support and getting that set up before you go on your road trip is important, especially if you have a rental car. Sometimes just taking some extra time at the rental car, ask for help from maybe the customer service about getting your Bluetooth connected to the car before you go, because it's going to save you a lot of time in the long run if you spend a few minutes in advance or ask for support from somebody who's working there. I know we all probably have our own cars set up already, working the way we want them to, but the rental cars can all be different. You're working with different car company or platform getting connected to your phone. So GPS, some of us like it better just coming through to the hearing aids, but if you're traveling with somebody else, then we might want to make sure that we still have it coming through the car so that everybody can get the directions. In the hotel room, I already talked about how we have those accessibility rooms available. You can also just notify the front desk as well to make sure that they're aware that you might not, if you don't have an accessible room, that you might not be aware of something if there's an emergency, to make sure, hey, somebody needs to come and alert me. Those alarm clocks that I talked about already, if you have one and you packed it, there's some alerting systems for fire or smoke and the door, as well as some phone amplifiers that you can put just on the handset of any phone that's in the hotel room. And then I don't know if everybody is familiar with, they used to be called Harris Communications, but now they go by Diglo. Diglo is the website, and they offer all types of assistive listening devices and specializing in hard of hearing. And this is their ADA compliant guest room economy kit that I found on their website. So it's about $350 and it has all the things that you could have, a little bag that you pack so you can self-accommodate at a hotel room. Has all the things that you would need. So you can find things like that at Diglo's website, including those like alarm clocks or just individual items if you wanted just one or two of those things. And then some of the apps to check out. So the first one isn't really an app, but I'm not sure if anybody is using it already on their phone. The closed caption features, part of the accessibility in our phone that can provide captioning. So there's ways to set up in your phone's settings to turn on captioning so that your phone, the microphone on the phone, is picking up voices around you and captioning it on your phone. And those are all free. There's no cost to any of those. And then of course there's other apps that are available to download that also do captioning. So some of the more popular ones are Otter AI and AVA. They are both kind of the bigger ones when it comes to captioning. But I find that the phone itself, whatever, if you're Apple or Android, has the best captioning. It's easiest to use and set up, and the captions are great, and they just don't stop for any reason, where some of the other ones have limitations to how many minutes you can use at a time. There's also some, if you're traveling abroad and you need it, some language translation. So Google makes a great one so that you can use it for communicating. So it also, helps because it's captioning, but it's translating at the same time. So Google's is probably one of the better ones, but it does mean you have to have some type of cell network that you're on or Wi-Fi that you can get on if you're not in the US. One of my favorite traveling apps is called Tunity. And the reason I like this one, have you ever been sitting at the airport, you got a long layover, and there's like TV up in the gate area and the news is on or something's on, but there's no sound coming out of it. So it's just the visual and you don't know what's happening. So Tunity is an app that you download and then you turn it on and you scan, it's like the camera on your phone is scanning the TV and it finds the station that is on that TV and it connects to the audio. So then you can stream the audio to your whatever devices are in your ears. So if you have your headphones on or your hearing aids or your cochlear, you'll stream. If you're connected to your phone, you'll just stream. So that one works great. TVs on TVs that are running just like a local cable or something like that. So at the airport is probably where I've used it the most. Bars sometimes, if you went to go watch a game, you were at a bar and it's so loud in there, but you wanted to know what's happening with the game, you can scan it and you can get the audio. And also at the gym. So a lot of times at the gym, there'll be TVs, sometimes even built into the machine that you're on. If you're on the elliptical machine or the treadmill and there's a TV running, you can scan that too, and you can get the audio from whatever that TV is. So that app is called Tunity, Tunity. And it's been around for a while. I like that one. Soundprint is another app that can be useful. It will take a decibel level reading at a location. And then it uses like crowdsourcing. So if I took a reading and Sally took a reading and Jim and Janie, we all took a reading, it'll give the average of how loud it is at that restaurant or bar. So you can help figure out if you're going to go somewhere, how loud it might be. So, maybe you're going to Nashville and you heard about this really great restaurant and you said, we should go check it out. You check on Soundprint and you see, oh, the average decibel reading is 99 decibels. Well, maybe that's not the restaurant we want to go to because we're not going to hear anything, that's being said there. So you can kind of get a feeling of how loud a place might be. So there's a way to search. You put a name in of a restaurant and you can see if there's been anybody who's taken readings and you can kind of see the average there. So that's a cool one. And then another one, I don't know if everybody remembers Rick Steves from PBS, but he has his own audio guides for different cities in Europe. So if you were going to do like a walking tour on your own or something like that, you could get his app and you can download your city and you can check out what he's got to offer. So I'm going to pop over now to talking about the Roger system a little bit because Larry asked me to talk about it. I think Jane and Debbie, who are audiologists at Pacific Hearing, gave a demonstration at the Sequoias the other day. And I know that this HLA group has always talked about Roger FM systems in general and had Roger options available to kind of when you guys would meet at the library and kind of show everybody. So there's a few new options that are out there with Phonac's Roger system. So Roger, we used to always call this an FM system, meaning there was a transmitter, like the radio station, and the receiver. So like the car stereo, right? So there's a signal being sent from one source to the other. When we come to FM systems with hearing aids, you have somebody wearing a microphone or using a microphone on the table, and that's sending a signal to the hearing aids. There's some type of receiver. And when Phonak upgraded their system years ago, used to be an FM system, they changed the name to Roger. And that's because they no longer are using an FM signal. It's more of it's a proprietary wireless technology. And it got its name from the aviation world where we had that message received and confirmed, like Roger. So their system, let me see if I can share. So their system is, can everybody see my Roger screen now?
Yes.
Okay. They have a few different options here, and I'm going to scroll down to their microphone. So if you have a Phonak hearing aid, it makes this really seamless technology to just get a microphone because the hearing aids can accept the receiver from that microphone without having to add anything else. If you're wearing another device, any other cochlear implant or hearing aid manufacturer, there's a way, most of the time, there's a way to connect this Roger microphone to your hearing aids, but we have to have something that can help us to connect. The biggest, I think the two favorites when we come to these Roger microphones is this Roger On right here and the Roger Select. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the difference between these two. So this Roger On has 3 different microphone modes. So if you wear it, if anybody remembers like the Roger Pen, this is the newer version, Roger On, and it's version 3 is the new one. So you can wear it on a lanyard or clip it, and it'll act as just an individual talker microphone where the microphone array is opened up just a little bit. You can change it to interview mode by starting to point it, and it goes and it opens up the microphone array. So it's picking up a little bit wider and you just point it at the person you want to talk to. Or you can set it down on the table, and when it is in that flat position, it opens up. So it's kind of like a tabletop microphone. It's picking up all around. So there's not much to this in terms of turning it on and off. There's a switch on the side. The device itself is determining which microphone array it should be into based on the position you put it in. But that button, that's kind of that little black circle in the middle on the top, allows you to lock it into a position. So if you wanted to lock it into a microphone mode, you could do that. And why these Roger systems are so great is they help eliminate background noise and bring the speaker closer to you. So if you were at the dining room, you can put it on the table. If you are traveling in the car, you could have it person you're traveling with clipped it onto them, or in the airplane or at the airport. If there was a tour guide, you could give it to the tour guide and have them wear it so that you're getting that streamed information to the hearing aids. So I'd say Roger On is probably the most popular in terms of the microphone systems right now. And then the Roger Select is the next most popular. The Roger Select is this round one here in the middle, and it has 6 different microphones that sit around this top part. And it has 2 different options on the microphone array. So you can wear it on a lanyard so that you're getting that individual speaker pointing upwards, or you can set it down on a table and then you get all 6 microphones picking up. And if you tap on the device, you'd see when you set it down, all these green lights come on all around, and you can tap on it. So say Jim is sitting across from me and Sally's next to him, but Jim's voice is much louder than Sally's, and I hear him okay talking to me, but then he's drowning out Sally. So I could tap the microphone and turn Jim from picking him up so much and making sure that I have the other one on, so I'm picking up Sally more. So it gives you a little bit of control on which microphone is going to pick up on that circle. And this microphone is great for like restaurant, for more like a restaurant option, or tabletop kind of. They also make this next one over, which is a table microphone. And that one is meant for like a larger table. So like a conference room type table more than like a dining table. So if you're still working or attending board meetings, things like that, these Roger table mics are the way to go. And if you're a person who only has one person that you're interested in hearing most of the time, there's a Roger clip-on microphone. So it kind of just does that one person speaker. And the Roger touchscreen microphone is meant more for like kids, for students. So I'm not going to talk about that one. The nice thing about all these as well is there's what they call the multi-talker network. So any of these Roger microphones, if you owned more than one of them, can also get linked together. So you can have, somebody on, you could have like multiple of these selects or table mics if you had a long table, and you could have them set up along the table so that you're picking up even more people up and down on the table. So that's the Roger system. People really enjoy it when it comes to overcoming some difficulties, especially with a lot of background noise when you're still struggling. So a lot of like restaurant situations. Sorry, I'm going to pop out of the screen. Trying to do 2 things at once over here. Did I stop sharing? Yes. So there was a demonstration on it, and I think you guys at HLAA have demonstrated it a bunch of times as well. Amazing technology, and Phonak even just keeps getting better and better with that technology. In those situations where you're still struggling, I can't hear this person, especially like your partner or a friend. If you're going to dinner, if you dine with them a lot, I think it works best in those, a lot of background situations. I think about restaurants, right? That's such a difficult listening situation, but it can also be really helpful in some of these other travel situations that I was just talking about, where you have a tour guide or you're going to a lecture or something, you want to hear it, and you don't want to be stuck with whatever assistive technology that's available there that they might offer you, that you don't know if it's going to work or if you can connect to it. You're accommodating yourself by bringing your Phonak system along with you. And my last update that I want to give you all is on the California Connect program. So we've had CTAP for as long as I can remember. The California Telephone Access Program. Probably have gotten a free phone through the state of California. They provide assistive technology for people if you have hearing loss, vision loss, mobility, or memory issues. And that funding came through, there's a program, California Public Utilities Commission has the funding, and then they funded it through the Deaf and Disabled Telecommunications Program. And then the company that owned the rights to that funding, where they were managing it, was CTAP. What we always knew as CTAP. I love CTAP. I worked with them forever. I knew everybody who worked there. They're fantastic. And they always had outreach people who would come and show you what products they had and come to your house and set it up. Well, Regine and I were talking the other day and she said, "What happened? Where are they?" And I said, the funding for them for CTAP was supposed to end in 2020, but we all know what happened in 2020. We got COVID. So COVID, they extended the funding for them. And that extension went for a few years. And then it had to get reassessed on who was going to have access to provide these services and who was going to get paid to do them. And so CTAP lost their funding. And now we have this new program, which is California Connect. And really it's the same program. It's the same phones, it's everything. The only difference has been since they took over in the past year, they don't really have an outreach person. So they don't have those same connections where you would go to, the senior center and you could meet with somebody, or somebody could come and talk to your group about the phones and what was available. So it's been mostly either for us, your audiologist puts an application in for you, or you go online yourself and you sign up. You hit this apply now and you fill out your own form. And on their website, it shows all of their different options that you can pick from. So they have some even alerting systems now for your house, which are really nice options that they added in. But they still have the cordless phones, the external telephone amplifiers, the big buttons, different things are still available what they offered before. They just haven't had that kind of in-person service that they used to have. When Regine asked me to talk about this when I was coming to see you guys, I reached out to somebody at the program and I asked them, "Can you give me an update? What's going on?" And the good thing is they're adding in outreach. So this year they're going to have an outreach program, and they have the funding for a few years. So they'll still be able to come and do in-home support if something's happening with your phone. And they're also going to have people that can come give presentations and demonstrate the phones. So they're working on getting that team built. That's been kind of their place where they were lacking. And I told a woman when I spoke with her that it's tough when you don't have, if I'm making a referral for somebody, in the past, I used to just say, "Hey, I picked out this phone for Janie. She saw the phones at my place. This is the one we decided on." And I would just write the application, or I would call the CTAP person because I knew who they were. And I'd say, "Hey, can you do this phone?" And so now how it's been happening is I fill out the application for Janie, maybe they're going to call Janie and then they're going to go through a series of questions and help determine which phone she wants. And as we all know, if I'm asking to get a phone for you because you can't hear very well over the phone, it's not easy to go through those questions to determine, it's confusing for people. They're like, just send me the phone. I already talked about it. So I let her know that I can see that that's a place that they're going to need to work on with their program, because so many of us who've been working with CTAP for a long time, we're very familiar with the phones. So our office even has some to demo. So I don't need you to call Janie and to talk her through that, because we already looked at them all and talked about it. So they're working on some updates and trying to make the program a little bit more accommodating for the disability that we're working with, or maybe even sometimes the age group that we're working with, where somebody's not understanding why they have to go through this process because, hey, I already talked to my, people that I know at my office and they made this recommendation. So there's some changes, and as always, there's rough patches with sometimes when they're creating some new systems. But the good thing that I felt after I talked to the woman was that she had worked for CTAP. So she was very familiar with the whole process, and she had been a part of their team. So she came over from the CTAP program. So she's trying to grow and make it just as good as CTAP was. So it still exists, but if you were telling any of your friends, or if you already got a phone and it wasn't working and you needed to replace it and you said, I'm looking for CTAP, where the heck are they? They are now California Connect. So hopefully that helps if you are know anybody who's trying to figure out where is everybody? So I know I talked about a lot of things today. Hopefully there was some helpful things in there for as far as traveling, or maybe even some of the connectivity, remote microphones, or maybe even a new app that you might want to think about checking out or downloading. But I'm open to questions if anybody, if I can answer any questions. Carolyn.
Hi,
Hi.
can you hear me okay,
I
right?
can't.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that at the San Jose airport, there in California, they are handing out the sunflower lanyards. And the sunflower program is for hidden disabilities. So hearing loss would be qualifying for that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that's an international program, and I can put their website on chat if you would like me to do that.
That would be great.
So the other thing that I experienced in traveling on an airplane is that telecoil worked on some of the airplanes to see the movies. So I had my telecoil loop and I was able to connect it to an audio port and hear the movie. So I just wanted to point that out. That's the second thing that,
What airline were you on for that, Carolyn?
well,
'Cause I
you
think-
know, I've traveled on quite a number and I cannot exactly remember.
Okay.
I basically bring my telecoil just in case. As long as you could call them, as long as they have an audio port to plug into, then it seemed like the telecoil worked. Okay, so I guess you'd ask that question. But I don't remember. I use Alaska and Delta mostly. So, okay, the other thing that saved me was putting an air tag in my little hearing case that you were talking about. Because once I left it on the airplane, and believe me, an air tag works so much better than their lost and found system, because I was using their lost and found system and I ended up getting it emailed FedEx to me through the AirTag. I was way ahead of the system. So those are the three things that I've just wanted to point out that has helped me.
Thank you. I think Kathy had her hand up too.
I do. Carolyn, I'm fascinated you could use your telecoil because I
Yeah.
get too much electronic interference when I have tried telecoil on the plane.
I
But
have had mixed reactions, but I have been able to use it on some airlines. Yes, I know what you mean. And also, if you're on the ground, it's different than if you're in the air.
Oh,
At least that's my experience.
okay. Okay, I don't know what an air tag is. Was it an air
Well,
tag you put on your?
it's an Apple product and it connects to your iPhone. And what it does is it locates, if you have it in a bag, it locates the bag on a map. And that's briefly what it is. I know you can explain it better, but
Yeah, it's like it's a GPS tracker. So similar to
Yeah.
like what's in your phone. and it's an Apple product, so it works best with, like, if you have an iPhone, and you can put it, people put it, you can put it in your luggage. People sometimes hook them up to their keychains. We were going to put one on my daughter when she's 15, but she was going to her first concert the other day at the Chase Center. And we're like, what if her phone gets lost? So we were like, we're going to have her wear one and put it in her pants pocket. So that kind of thing where you can see on your phone, there is that tag. Where exactly is that tag? So, and Carolyn, funny, my brother-in-law traveled to Italy, and on the way back, they lost his bags. And they were like, we don't know where your bags are. And he's like, well, I do, because he had his air tag. And so he was able to update the airline and let them know, oh, Larry has one in his picture right now.
Yeah, this is an example of an air tag. It's got its own battery in it. And they come with different things to hold them. Like you can get a holder for it that attaches to your keychain. And this is the Apple product, but there are a number of other of these kind of location devices on the market. They're all reasonably priced. They work very well. And as you if you've lost it in your house or your apartment, you can search for it. And as you get close to it, you can ask it to beep, and then it'll beep. So if it's in a pocket or something, you can find it. So it's very nice. We use them all the time.
It sounds better than Tile.
Oh, I've used both. I like it better than Tile for one reason, especially. Tile, when the battery wears out, is gone. You have to replace it. But AirTag, you can change the battery
Where
and keep the AirTag.
where can you buy AirTag?
Well, they're $25 each, and I buy mine through Amazon.
Okay.
And I think Costco has them, like in a 3-pack or
Oh.
something like that.
That's good to know.
Oh.
I have
Well,
a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about the Roger devices. Now, I have a Phonex hearing aid, but it's pretty old. So are they compatible with all Phonex or?
Yeah, it would be compatible with all Phonak.
Okay, it doesn't have to be a newer model. That's why I was asking.
It doesn't have to be. So one of the things about some of the newer technology is that the receiver, we used to, back in the day, we used to have almost like this boot that we had to add to our hearing aid as a receiver. And in the newer models of Phonak, the receiver is kind of invisible. So it can just be turned on essentially in the hearing aid. So I'd say if your hearing aid's maybe over 5 years old, then it wouldn't be like the invisible one, and you'd still have to figure out how to get that receiver hooked on to the hearing aid. But they have the little like boots built for, if it's a Phonak hearing aid, they built them so they're pretty seamless, like attached to like where your battery door is. Do you have
Mine's chargeable. Mine's chargeable.
So if yours is rechargeable, it's probably got the ability to have the invisible.
Thank you.
one. Mhm.
Yep, I would add that in the next year or two, there are going to be many other companies coming out with similar products that will, whatever your hearing aid brand is, they will have something that'll, directly beam to it. So, but you want to be sure if you buy hearing aids in the future, that you get ones that either have this new technology, which is called Auracast, or it's upgradable. It has the right hardware, but it doesn't have the firmware in it yet.
Yeah. And almost all of the hearing aid manufacturers make something that's called like a remote microphone. So it's like Roger, but it's from the hearing aid manufacturer themselves, and they're great. Phonax is just better. The Roger system's just better. And the price reflects the difference. So like if you got a remote microphone from your hearing aid manufacturer, it would be a couple $100, where the Roger system is going to be probably a couple $1,000. And that's, the technology is just better. But yeah, Larry brings up a good point. We have this new type of Bluetooth coming out, which is Auracast. So with Bluetooth connections, which is what we're using for all of our phones to be connected to our hearing aids, it's always been a one-to-one connection. So you can only be streaming from one thing at a time. And with the new Auracast, they call it one-to-many. So say you go to a movie theater and the movie theater has Auracast, so the audio system that it's sending out, it's one sound that's coming out, but many people can connect. Just like if you walked into a building and you said, oh, what's your Wi-Fi? And you went into your phone and you jumped on the Wi-Fi, you could jump onto the Bluetooth and then you could pull the audio. And it's going to be amazing as it starts to become available and as our hearing aids and our devices are capable of accepting it as well.
So I think Kathy Evans and Ken Peters have questions. Kathy, would you like to go ahead?
I do have another question about Tunity. Does that only work in the United States?
You know, I
Or
haven't
does it work
tried it.
abroad?
I haven't tried it abroad, so I'm not sure if it works overseas. I would assume it's probably just in the US because the infrastructure that it's based off of is the US model, but I would assume I'm assuming it's just a US option.
Ken, do you have a question?
I wonder about the situation where we're as a hearing disabled individual, we have to deal with emergency information coming in through audio means, such as on the plane or in a cruise. I guess I was told that you should always notify the person in charge of each of those that you have hearing loss, but it's a very difficult situation, I think, because that person may not be there when the emergency happens. And do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's hard because I think sometimes some of those situations you are going to rely on people that are working for the company, right? So on the airline, it would be the flight attendant, things like that. Because even if you're signed up for like the emergency texting, there sometimes is a delay there, and you're not going to, and it's not going to be available like on a plane. I would say in those situations, if you're comfortable, and I think a lot of people in this group are comfortable sharing, if you're sitting next to somebody, you know, you might have already struck up a conversation. It might be good to tell whoever's sitting next to you, hey, if there's an emergency or if there's an alert, can you let me know? Because I have a hard time hearing the system. You don't even necessarily tell them you have hearing loss. You just say, I'm having a really hard time understanding the person who's giving the information. Would you mind letting me know if there's anything I need to know? Because we don't have a great system in place for that in those situations. You know, I think we were talking about just the telecoil even option, that it's, you know, that might be an option on some airlines but not others. So there's not like a one size fits all solution. So I think at some of those times we're just hoping for the best seatmate or kindest people that are working for the airline or the train system to make sure that they're alerting us and letting us know. But sorry, Ken, I don't have a better answer for that.
I mean, it seems to me that the airline should have a list of people that are on the plane, let's say, that have different disabilities and different needs. And if an emergency happens, there should be some, you know, procedure that occurs to alert us.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's all based on, you actually telling somebody, right? Because of the HIPAA privacy. Some people don't want people to know their disabilities, so you'd have to, you almost have to tell them each time so that they're aware.
I'd like to speak to that issue in airports. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Several years ago, my sister said to me, Sally, have you used the wheelchair access at the airport? And I said, no. And she said, well, you have bad knees. Why don't you use it and see the advantage? It has changed my whole experience of traveling in airports and in airlines. You don't even have to go online beforehand and ask for it, and you don't even have to tell them what your disability is. I just show up to the gate or to, where the ticketing is and say, I need a wheelchair between gates. And they take you and they really watch over you. Once you get to the gate, they will assist you there too. They alert people that are working at the airlines there to know that you need access to early departure, getting on the plane. Anything at all that you need, they will help you with. And they actually take you through the line at the very beginning. Instead of going through the line, you cut right through it. So if there's any indication at all that you think that you would be needing to walk a long distance or anything like that, you can ask for that. And it has made all the difference in the world for me to know that I don't have to try to worry about not being able to hear if I'm traveling alone, and which I do sometimes these days. And it's a great help. So I would encourage any of you to consider using that. It's a offered by all of the airlines in the United States. I'm not sure. Well, actually, when I've been to Mexico, they have picked me up when I've gotten off the plane. So they do have that service too. And just tip people that are pushing you and thank them. And it's a great service.
Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Bob.
Jessica, can you tell us more about what's happening with this Bluetooth extension where it's going to be one to many? Because I've been patiently waiting, but I'd really like to know when it's going to happen.
So a lot of the hearing aid manufacturers are starting to incorporate it into the new technology. I think the bigger issue is that it's not, even if our hearing aid or devices have it capable, not all of the services that we want to access have an updated system that they can use. So we've been working on this Bluetooth platform for so long that it's going to take time for people to adopt the new technology. So they're projecting that it could take probably maybe up to 5 years before we're all kind of using the new Auracast. Because I use the movie theater, for example. They're going to have to update all of their systems so that they have it available so they can project the sound. Same as like the airports and everything. So they're all going to have to start adopting that new technology. What I think the manufacturers of the hearing aids and the cochlear implants are doing on this side of things is they're trying to make them ready so that, hey, we're ready. So when the technology comes out, we can start accessing it instead of it comes out and then now I need to upgrade my hearing aid because it didn't have it built in already. So like, I know the newest cochlear implants are a great example because their new technology only comes out about every 5 years. With hearing aids, it's like every year-ish that they come out with something new. So because when Cochlear just launched like their new platform, the Nucleus 8, they made sure it was Auracast ready because a lot of those people are not going to be getting a new cochlear processor for at least 5 years. So they wanted to make sure it was built in. So I think that's kind of, we're on this. We know we know that the technology is there. It's just, it has to get incorporated to all these facilities and places.
Yeah,
I
in
think
my
in the
case, I have
meantime,
a new innate.
I'm waiting for an AuraCast neck loop to come out, because that's an obvious thing that would let someone use their T-coils to access AuraCast services. But if you go on Amazon and enter AuraCast, you'll start to see products that you can buy right now that incorporate this technology. So it's happening. And I agree with you, Jesse. It's going to be really big, because it's not just for people with hearing loss. It's for kids with earbuds. Yeah, you know, the technology works for all kinds of applications.
Robert, you were going to say something else, I think.
Yeah, they have apparently I have to get a firmware update, and Cochlear hasn't done that yet. So that's what I wondering about.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
And I think that I'm hoping that a lot of the technology that we have, all it will need is a firmware update for us to access some of those things,
Yeah.
because they have been planning for it.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, it's Bluetooth 5.2 or higher. It should be upgradable. My wife just got a hearing aids that are Philips brand, and they are the latest ones, are upgradable to. And like you say, I think Resound is coming out with ones also.
Yeah.
It's happening. Kathy, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I've traveled quite a bit on planes, and my experience has been they really would like you, if you first off, you register with the airline that you have hearing loss. I mean, you're a disabled passenger. And this way, from then on, they have it on you whenever you order tickets, buy your tickets, it's going to be on your ticket. And that's very good, because then all they do, then what I do is I go up to the desk, the counter near the where you board the plane, and then they highlight it and they just make it pre-board, because they really would prefer that people with any type of disability pre-board, because they want to know where you're sitting, and ideally try to sit close to where you can see the stewardess, because hearing things over the PA system on planes is not always ideal, especially in cases of an emergency. And they want to see where you are. And they told me this. It was awkward at first. I had to get used to the idea. Oh my gosh, I used to let the people with the wheelchairs go on unless they tell me to go in front of them, because I just think they should have top priority. But anyhow, because in case of emergency, the bottom line is your processors, your hearing aids could fly off your head, and you will be totally off the air, so to speak. And so you need to be able to rely on visual understanding of what the stewardess wants. If she knows that, and then like you mentioned earlier, one of you mentioned that just telling your seatmate, that you have a hearing loss, then they at least could be advocating and looking out for you too. So that was what I was told, and so I've done it. Sometimes, like I say, I feel uncomfortable, but I think it's worth it. We never know when we're going to have an emergency.
All right, thanks. Are there any other questions? I think we're near our closing time. Jesse, I'd like to thank you for this very wide-ranging topic, and for the questions you answered. I just think it's been a wonderful talk. Thank you so much.